Welcome to the GPLama YouTube channel, where I am back from my travels to Eurobike 2023, but I still have a lot to cover from the world's biggest bicycle trade show held in Germany just last week. With over 1,900 exhibitors at the show, there is so much to see and to learn about, and a few things to sidestep along the way. Now, I have titled this video, Probably Not Your Next, ... that being head unit, wireless group set, or power meter. Maybe some of these are. Maybe some of these aren't. Maybe we wait for revision 2 or 3 of these products, but I think it's important to have a look at where things are now as presented at the show. I've also put video chapters in the description below, which should come up on the video timeline, so if you want to jump ahead to any particular product, you can do that too. Alright, and with that, there's a lot to get to, let's get stuck into it. Kicking things off with what's probably not going to be your next gravel group set, or maybe it will be when it's officially announced and released. Now, over on the KTM stand, I believe a bike with the 12-speed GRX group set was spotted and quickly taken away from the stand, and someone came out with a texter to remove the information we shouldn't have been able to read. However, with the power of our eyes, we can see exactly what's going on here, and the group set that was seen in person over there at Unbound just recently, I'm guessing will be out and about very soon from Shimano. Over at the Bryton stand, they were showing off their latest model bicycle GPS units, including the Ryder 800, their flagship model, but my eyes were on the Ryder 750 SE with a slightly redesigned form factor than the 750, twice as much storage on board, up to 32 gig now, and switching from micro USB over to USB-C. This unit comes in at around $250 US, so quite competitive, and has a lot of the features you'll see on higher end units, such as Live Track and their version of Climb Pro. On the stand, the touchscreen was pretty responsive, so I was happy to see that, no lag, and this unit is also quarter turn mount compatible with Garmin units. On to some indoor training software that I hadn't seen before, icTrainer or icTrainer out of Germany. They have a heavy focus on workouts and training, as all indoor training software should. But the key feature here is this is under €24 per year for a subscription. On to what is probably not going to be your next road group set, and this one's from WheelTop, yet to be announced. I believe the announcement for this is in a few weeks. The EDS-TX wireless 12, 11, 10, 8 or 9 speed group set. Here is the front derailleur. Rear derailleur here, with a few components looking very 3D printed and unfinished. I'm guessing this is not probably a final version. One thing of note is the batteries on both front and rear derailleur don't appear to be removable. They are rechargeable, not removable. Everything else looks okay with these. You see the charge port there underneath. Standard charge port we see for a lot of rechargeable devices these days. The levers themselves were quite comfortable. The ergonomics on these were nice. Good finish. So I think the levers were definitely the winner out of this. Now this is capable only at the moment, no hydro. And the button there on the left lever is up or down. So just one single button does two things depending on the state of the current derailleur. Very much like a SRAM setup. Over on the right hand side, we have up and down buttons. Tactile feel of those was quite good, nice and clicky and quite responsive. And multi-shift also worked. Now, there was a bit of a language barrier with the team on the booth, either that or they were being pretty quiet about the upcoming features of this. Now, one thing I did ping them on was AMP Plus connectivity to head units. I didn't get a straight answer on that one. And also what they were claiming, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 speed compatible. It's all programmable. What does that mean in reality when installed on a bike? And exactly what are the optimal chains, chain sets and cassettes to use with this group set? All a bit of an unknown at the moment with what I would consider yet another YouTuber's group set, which is a bit of a lighthearted take on these only being seen on YouTube and not anywhere else at the moment. Anyhow, I do like more products on the market like this. If it can drive prices down, if it can push other manufacturers to make cheaper components or better components, look, I'm all for it. This, well, the derailleur's a little bit unfinished. The levers were definitely the winner, but anyhow, WheelTop and their 12-speed EDS-TX group set. More on this maybe one day. Onto another non-Shimano or non-SRAM 12-speed wireless group set, and this is from FSA, their K-Force Wii 12-speed group set. And the notable thing with this is that it comes as a complete group set. So you have the cassette, chain set, derailleurs, levers, rotors, the whole works. Not just half a group set for the shifters where you have to source everything else. Now, to be honest, not something I've seen on a bike anywhere ever outside of a trade show, but interesting nevertheless to see that a manufacturer is doing the complete group set, top to bottom, not just some components. Now, speaking of components, I came across this interesting crank setup from Croder that would solve a problem on a lot of smart bikes where changing crank lengths is quite difficult. Everything else is adjustable on a smart bike except the crank length. You've got to take the pedals off and put them back on. Something like this with a quick release or a quick adjuster for crank lengths would be a very, very welcome addition to smart bikes, where people of different heights or different geometries are using the bike and adjusting everything else except having to suck it up and using the crank length that's on there. So from 140 through to 180 with the same crank. Very, very interesting solution, this one. Onto some weird and wonderful, but I do need to be careful what I call weird after the Taipei Cycle Show and that little incident there. But these are airbags for cyclists, which look, well, like a flotation device as well, I guess. Now, my question for the team was, how quickly do these inflate? They pointed me straight to this screen here, and very quick is the answer. Now, something you wouldn't want a false positive on, or a false negative, I guess. But we see these technologies pop up every now and then. And that wasn't intentional to use the word pop-up. But anyway, interesting stuff to see. Now, anything AirTag related has my attention, given I think they're a brilliant little device for maybe finding your lost bike or misplaced bike. And here's an AirTag mount that I hadn't seen before from a company called Ryder Innovations out of South Africa. And it places the AirTag underneath the Garmin or computer mount out front of your bike. Quite interesting and inconspicuous. Sticking to the theme of AirTag mounts, and Muc-off had two of their options on display. One, the inside the wheel mount for tubeless tyres. Quite an interesting option there. I'm not quite sure how that will work. And it was good to see they have completely redesigned their secure AirTag holder. No longer a Faraday cage. These have a much better chance of the wireless signals getting in and out when these are on your bike. So I have one of these in the Llama Lab for testing, and I'll bring you the results on that soon. Now, with my experience in converting Assioma Duos over to SPD compatibles using Xpedo pedal bodies, this new offering caught my eye. This is the Shimano SPD-SL road compatible pedal from Xpedo. And the first question I had was, is this compatible with the Assioma Duo spindle? They said no, it will need some modifications, which they might be working on in the background, so stay tuned. If we can convert Assioma Duos over to SPD-SLs without that extra Q factor, this could be quite a popular hack. Not specifically a cycling product on show here, but something that I do want, and that is a hydraulic slinky machine. Perfect for those who don't have stairs at home or who just want to watch a slinky do its thing all day long. Who doesn't? This is mesmerizing. 10 out of 10 for this stand at Eurobike. Onto a blast from the present, and CatEYE, yes, they still exist, recently releasing their AirGPS, which sits second in line on their lineup here, featuring a battery life of only 10 hours. So things are quite interesting at that end of the market, along with all their other units to choose from there. Probably not something you'll see here on the channel, but interesting to see CatEYE still around. The Sigma Sport stand was featuring their recently reviewed here on the channel ROX 12.1 Evo GPS unit. Now, unfortunately, I only got to swing by this booth on the last 2 days of Eurobike, and my contact wasn't there. I only came across a few nervous and scrambling salespeople as I walked up to the stand. But anyhow, no further updates on that just yet, but I did get to check out their ROX 11.1 Evo, the lower end units, the 4.0, and they've also got the 2.0 at the lower end. And even at the lower end from that, a unit that I hadn't seen before, the V1300 from Sigma. So quite a few offerings at the lower end from those guys. Over to Hammerhead, which is probably not your next... Actually, wait, it might be, given the recent price drops we've seen on the Karoo 2. Here over at the SRAM stand, these units are looking a little dark for my liking, so I'll just help out by turning them all on. A lot of questions around the potential release of the Karoo 3. Look, we know nothing, we've seen nothing, we've heard nothing. All we know is that the Karoo 2 has had a massive price drop recently. Oh, and just today they've released a new firmware as well to address some of the issues with the recent update on the fonts that people didn't like in the last update. So check it out if you're a Karoo 2 user, and let's all stand by for a Karoo 3 soon, maybe, I hope. Korean company Trimm. We're also at the show with their Trimm 1 Lite and also their new Trimm 2 computer. Looking a little closer here at the Trimm 1 Lite, retailing from around, well, they've got some pricing there on screen. And what captured my attention was the crispness of the displays. Over to the Trimm 2, and you can see the resolution is quite good on these. Really hard to capture that on camera. But these look like a little tiny iPhone. The bezels didn't appear to be too big on these. but I was definitely keen to get my hands on this one here, their upcoming Trimm 2. Power meter support, GPS, etc. It's all there. And quite light. Now, retail on these comes in at, they're saying between $349 and $379 US. And they'll be sending one over when one is ready to test. So quite an interesting design on these. A brand I hadn't come across before, Shanren out of China, showing off their Max 30 cycling GPS with a claimed battery life of 58 hours between charges. And no doubt they're getting that from the basic screen they're running on these. So not a lot of graphic detail, but just the basics and one hell of a battery life claim. Here in Australia, JB Hi-Fi, one of our largest retailers for electronic items, have gone with Meilan as their brand of choice for bicycle GPSs on the shelves, and they were on show here with their Finder and Orbit L1s. Now, I'm hoping the Orbit L1s were for e-bikes only because they were quite chunky and they were very, very green. Either that or I hope they come in different colours because this green, not for my liking. And finally, in today's wrap-up, probably not your next power meter, from a company called AroFly, who used to do valve cap power meters. They also have a GPS here on show, but all focus was on the iLink opposing force power meter, which is compatible with ANT+ and Bluetooth. They were pretty confident in the results, and I'll reserve judgment until I get one, potentially, to put to the test in, well, outside of the Llama Lab. Doesn't work indoors, obviously. So that's a wrap on today's video. Very much a mixed bag of technology and things that caught my attention here at Eurobike 2023. But as I said at the start, maybe not the next purchase you'll be making. Or, now you've seen them, maybe they will be. So it's been a great 5 days at Eurobike, walking the halls and also being outdoors, watching all types of bikes of all kinds ride past and people with big smiles on their faces. As always, if you've enjoyed this one, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe to be across more videos on this channel, and we'll be back with more soon.